And a good Monday morning, Birds fans. Thanks for starting off the week with us. Streaming in with Mac and Mac on Birds 365 on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. And not all have a lot of football going down over the weekend. Hoops, hockey, Phillies actually won a couple games in a row. So we had plenty of sports. It just wasn't much football news. Eagles related or across the National Football League, as a matter of fact, Johnny Mac. So instead of anything that's happened the last couple of days, want to go back to Friday, because I asked you here on the show on Friday on Birds 365, had the Eagles announced if they were going to do a second joint practice this year? We knew one that they were going to do, but they hadn't announced the second one yet. And I said, Jeff, don't you usually know about this? Because the preseason schedule's been out for a while. You know, it's going to be one of the teams they play in the preseason. Is it going to be their week one opponent or week three opponent? Would cut a little close, but now you got that whole bye week before the season starts thing. So I said, well, it could be their last week opponent, which happens to be the Indianapolis Colts. That'd be interesting with Shane Steichen coming back to Philadelphia. And what text did you send me about 10:30? Sure enough, half an hour after the show is over. Here comes Eagles news right after they wrap up Birds 365. Who'll the Eagles be joint practicing with this year?
Yeah, Shane. Shane is coming back, baby. Probably very comfortable, obviously. He and Nick are very close, so it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, the Eagles in the Nick Sirianni era have, they value these joint practices more than the games. Let's be honest, they have. We all joke about their joint practice record, finally blemished by the Miami Dolphins last year down in South Florida. But they value those things a lot, and that's where the starters get their work. And when the preseason game rolls around, you'll see all the reserves. So, it's not the best setup for fans, obviously, but it's where we are in the NFL these days. So, it makes a lot of sense from the perspective of you get to script things in practice. You can't do it in games, obviously. So I always say, if you want to work on third and short, you want to work on, goal line stuff. Well, you got to hope that unfurls itself in the game. Whereas, Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen get together and say, hey, my guys need some work on third and short, and they script a session or, a portion of practice. So it makes sense from a coaching perspective, but it does suck for the fans because they're not going to see anybody. And remember, they don't have the cut down anymore. It's 90 to 53. So you're going to have this bloated roster right up until the very end. And guess who's going to play that last preseason game? And really all the preseason games, the majority of it, those guys who probably aren't going to be here.
A lot of Ian Book and Tanner McKee action in those preseason games for the Eagles this year. Not that guy named Hurts, $255 million guy named Hurts. And here's the one thing that jumped out on me on that, because, I asked you about it, and sure enough, boom, there's the answer. At least the way it was released by the Eagles, it said, and a joint practice.
Practice, yeah, one day.
As in singular, as in only one. Now, you've been there for all of them, 2 years, 2 teams apiece. The Eagles, I believe, are 6-1-1 or something like Miami kind of ate their lunch. In
6-1. 6-1. It wasn't, they didn't get a chance.
Why'd they shut down the second one against Miami? Was it heat or something?
No, a bunch of Dolphins got sick. The Eagles practice.
That's what it was.
The Eagles practice in that heat, and that heat was brutal, Jody. But they practice at the Dolphins facility. But the Dolphins had something going through their locker room, so they canceled their portion of it. They probably didn't want to defend their crown. They stole the championship. They didn't steal it. They won it. But no, I'm joking.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They not only stole the championship, they put a beat down on.
They had a good day.
Yeah,
they had a good day. The Dolphins, Tyreek Hill specifically. I always joke. Darius Slay tapped out early. He was like, "I'm done.
Yeah,
all right, see you later." Heats, Tyreek. I'm done.
I don't need any more of that. But at least it was scheduled for 2 practices. They've done it 4 times in the last 2 years and had 8 scheduled joint practices. They described when the Colts are coming to town as a joint practice, singular. Just another sign of the Philadelphia Eagles believing less is more? Are they dictating this? Are the Colts dictating this? They're coming to town, and these joint practices are supposed to be so advantageous because, as John McMullen just described, you can script and you can take a timeout and you can do immediate coaching, not have to wait. You blow a whistle, you stop, the coach gets in there, gives the players what they need, gets back off the field. It is. I can see where, depending on how it's constructed, it can actually be better for a team to do it in a practice than in a game. Only one. Why only one?
Yeah, we'll ask Nick about it. Nick's going to talk this week. Can't tell you when, but yeah. In fact, when it came out, I saw a lot of people tweeting joint practices, and I felt that I needed to go on there and point out that they only announced one day joint practice. So yeah, typically it's 2 days. Why they cut it down to 1 day might be as simple as logistics. I think it's going to be logistics. Maybe Indianapolis is, I don't know. You're dealing with 2 different organizations. My guess it had more to do with that than the Eagles scaling things back. They've always liked these things, and I don't think that changes. But if Indianapolis can only do 1 day, they can only do 1 day. So it's better than nothing, I guess, is what my guess is. But that's just speculation. Nick.
And they're scheduled to do it with the Browns as well. So both of the joints are going to be held here in Philadelphia, which makes John McMullen's life easier.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Don't have to make any reservations or get on a plane or anything. They're both here. Is it only going to be 1 practice against the Browns as well?
No, I believe that's 2. That's 2 practices. Now, the schedule's not out yet. It's not going to be out till mid-July, knowing the Eagles.
The schedule itself for the games, which we know the Eagles don't put a high regard on, but we know when they're going to be played, dates and times. You're talking about the other
practice schedule. The
right.
Practice schedule is not official, nor is it going to be official for many weeks. If history is any indication, like I said, mid-July is basically when they've been putting this thing out, because that's a big part of this show. I got to know when practice is.
Right. Eagle fans want to know when practice is.
Yeah. So they're a pain in the what when it comes to that kind of stuff. So who knows? There's more negotiating. Maybe things change, and maybe one turns into 2, but for now they announced 1 practice, and we'll see how it shakes out as we move forward. But these things are not set in stone. I mean, they're very malleable. I always joke, last week on Thursday, right, the Eagles opened practice and they said, it's going to be at 12 o'clock. And then the day before, it got pushed back to 12:55. Andy Reid probably has his practice schedule in 2027 done. There are certain people who are, structured and certain people who aren't structured. Yeah. So plenty of time to change is what I'm saying, Jody.
All right. And off what you just said, I'm going to bring up this next topic, and please everyone know full ahead of time that I'm pretty sure I know the answer. This isn't a complete and utter toss away question, but it's damn close to it. Read a very interesting post, and shame on me, I should have noticed this. I should have brought it up here on Birds 365 or on my radio show, from Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk, Howie Roseman's favorite, this week, pointing out that the NFL and HBO have yet to announce what team is doing Hard Knocks preseason this year. And usually they announce this sometime in March, at the latest in April, prior to the NFL draft. We are now in the first week of June, and they still haven't announced the Hard Knocks teams. Now, know full well, football fans, that there are rules and or escape hatches might be a better way to describe it, that the NFL has put in place that allows teams to say, thank you, no, I won't do HBO's Hard Knocks. If you've got a brand new coach, hired a new coach during the offseason. If you've been on Hard Knocks any of the last 10 years, or if you've made the playoffs the last 2 years, which I don't quite understand. You made the playoffs, so that gives you a Hard Knocks pass. If you actually do your job, then you get to say no. I'm not sure why they have those escape hatches in play, but that's the rules that they have in play right now. So there are actually only 4 teams that don't qualify in the get out of Hard Knocks free card heading into this offseason, and they are the Saints, the Bears, the Commanders, and the Jets. Now, you put those 4 teams out there. Is there any question if you're a vice president at HBO who you want to be able to get the most interest? Oh, you want the Jets. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, good young team, New York, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it'll be the Jets. But apparently the Jets don't want to do this.
Nobody wants to do it. That's the problem. Nobody ever wants to do it.
Maybe Aaron Rodgers stepped up and said, no, we're not doing Hard Knocks. Come on. I showed up for all these stupid OTAs. You think I'm going to be a guy who's going to sit down with HBO's cameras and let them roll on? No, not happening. Washington would probably be an ideal spot, but they still don't have the new ownership in place. And we don't know when this deal is going to get done. I could say when or if, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say when rather than if. So do you want to commit to that? And what happens if there is a problem with the deal and one of the investors comes up wrong and they have to put the deal on hold? And there's a potential downside to that. So you're left with the Bears and the Saints. I think the Bears would be a good, despite John's belief that they're a mismanaged organization. You know how big a Fields fan I am. And I think they had a good offseason. I think they made some good moves. So I think they're going to be much improved. I think they could be interesting. The Saints with Carr taking over, Dennis Allen. I'm not all that interested.
The Bears don't want to do it either. They're on record. So again, one of the things about, and you're a bigger fan of the show than I am.
Yes, I am.
I haven't seen the show in years.
Unabashed fan of the show.
Nobody wants to do it. I don't know why they keep doing it. It's not nearly as compelling. Now, you know better than me. It doesn't seem nearly as compelling as it was when it first started. So number one, you remember when they started the mid-season Hard Knocks show and there was going to be this big announcement of Hard Knocks. We all thought it was going to be canceled. They were going to say, oh, it's done. We had a good run and that was it. Nobody wants to do it. And instead they added a mid-season show. And they did it twice and they doubled down. They're going to have to change the rules. They're going to have to force teams to do it. And they can do that. I mean, they can. I think everybody says, you mentioned the rules they have. They can change that tomorrow if they want. I mean, if they get to a certain point, but under the teams that fit the rules as they're currently construed, yeah, the Jets would be the far most compelling of the group. I know the Eagles don't want to do it. I mean, you can tell by Nick Sirianni. I mean, he doesn't want anybody there looking at what they're doing at any point. And you think he wants to let in NFL films for that kind of access? No chance. Now, if they're forced to do it down the road, they're forced to do it. That's different. And I think the NFL is getting to the point, if they want to continue to show the show, they're going to have to force teams to do it. No, I don't care. You don't want to do it. You're doing it. It's your turn. And maybe you turn it into that. And you have 32 teams right now. You have 2 shows. Just everybody's up. Everybody's got to take their turn. And now you can say it's one of these 4 teams and you make a decision and you put your foot down and you start the rotation. I mean, I think ultimately that's where they're going to have to go if they want to continue to do the show, because nobody wants to do the show.
So here's my question, which you basically already answered, but I'll take it a step further so that I can at least ask you. Assuming that they come to an agreement and it's Goodell talking to all the owners and he gets the drift and he says, all right, I'm going to be the hall monitor here and I'm going to come hard at everybody. They decide, listen, here are the rules, out the window. We're going to decide. The NFL is going to decide. And if it's your turn to go, it's your turn to go. And there's going to be no, yeah, we'd prefer not to. We're not going to do it. No, you're going to get a call or a memo or an email or all of the above. And guess what? As soon as the league decides you're doing it, you're doing it. Wouldn't it be a good thing for the Eagles to do it this year? You want to do it when you can put your best foot forward. You can derive a benefit from doing Hard Knocks. It gets you the chance to showcase your organization. And I'm going to take a guess that a percentage of NFL players watch the show. Probably a pretty good percentage. I don't think it's 100% because people have lives and some people just don't care about TV and they play their video games or whatever else. But those that do watch TV might tune in. What are you going to watch on a Tuesday night? Some re-air on network television in August, or you're going to watch a show about the National Football League? I think you're going to watch Hard Knocks. So there can be an advantageous position taken here that you can put a spin on your organization. Maybe even the Eagles get to advertise their charitable works that Jeff Lurie can tell Roger, all right, but we're going to have a charity affair and I want the cameras rolling for that. So you can put your best foot forward. If the Eagles were forced to do it, wouldn't this be a good team when they're as good as they are? With a guy like Jalen Hurts out front, with a guy like Sirianni who's got a little personality, wouldn't now be a good time for the Eagles to do Hard Knocks?
Well, when I say nobody wants to do it, I should clarify that none of the coaches want to do it. I mean, if you're talking about marketing people, they all want to do it. Hey, yeah, let's do it. It's great for the organization. It's great, to do all the kind of stuff that you just mentioned. We can push the charitable foundation. We can push the community work, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Completely different group of people than the coaches. The coaches want no part of it. Now, I'm the first to say these guys are getting ridiculous to the point of, oh, we can't show this, we can't show that, we can't show that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're not fooling anybody. So it's a different group of people. And if you ask the coaches, it's going to be no, especially with this group. 100% of the time. I usually leave the door open, Jody.
You say with this group, have you had a chance to see enough of the new offensive coordinator and the new defensive coordinator that they're just the same overly?
Oh, they have no power. It doesn't matter.
So it's not coaches. It's Nick Sirianni.
I'm 100%.
You say Nick Sirianni doesn't want to do this.
I'm 100% sure he doesn't want to do it. I usually leave the door open.
It's Nick Sirianni.
98%.
And I know he's a real good young coach, and the Eagles went to Super Bowl last year. Should he be wielding that power already?
Well, for most coaches, he doesn't yield a lot of power. Number one. Number two, and I think our buddy Ben Solak mentioned that, and I thought, it's interesting. If he continues to have success, that's what happened with Doug Peterson.
Right.
I think it's going to be interesting to see when he grasps for more power, because he doesn't have a ton of power compared to some other entrenched coaches. I'm just saying, if it's left up to him, and I'm not saying it's left up to him, I'm saying if it is, he ain't doing it. Right. Period. End of sentence.
And I'm just saying, I don't know that it should be left up to him. The head coach of a football team, National Football League team, is a very important guy. But it's a huge organization, and Roger Goodell's not going to call Nick Sirianni. He's going to call Jeffrey Lurie, and then Jeffrey Lurie, if Roger could make a case and say, hey, it's good for the organization. I've heard the team we had 2 years ago, and they said their ticket sales went up. They weren't a 100% sellout team, blah, 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 blah. If he can make the argument to Jeff Lurie goes down and informs Nick Sirianni that the Eagles are going to be the Hard Knocks team, right?
Yeah, I don't think Jeff would do that, but if Jeff wanted to do that, sure, he could do it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if Jeff Lurie says, "Yeah, this is good for us. Let's do it." That's it. That's the end of the conversation. But I don't think he would do that. I don't think he would do that.
I just got on a Hard Knocks strain because I should know that because I am. You mentioned to the fan. Have you ever been a 3-year reviewer of Birds 365? You know I like Hard Knocks. We come on after every episode. I said, "Do you see that on Hard Knocks last night?" Despite the fact that it's repetitive and it's the same storyline, just change the names to protect the innocent. They do such a good job at it. And NFL Films produces such good television. It is very well done. And I enjoy it every single year. And I did last year with the Detroit Lions. That's why I said the Eagles play the Lions first week of the season. I start to warm up to the team that's on Hard Knocks. And I get to know some of their players. I go, yeah, I guess I'm kind of rooting for them to have a good
And
season.
by the way, we got to get to Les. I see him in the green room. Hi, they did the Amazon show a couple years ago, so
not even close to Hard Knocks.
But I mean, as far as letting cameras in the building, they had to do it for the Amazon show. So it's not like they haven't done it in the past, is what I'm saying.
Eagles did Amazon. The quality of the other show was just not as good as Hard Knocks. All right, we got off on a little bit of a TV tangent. We're going to bring it back to the Birds next because joining us will be former Eagle beat reporter, now host of his own podcast, Bowen on the Birds. Les Bowen joins us next here on Birds 365.
Do you